Hi, everybody. It's Duncan here, and we have got a pretty special guest list today. We've got Pete and Nick from Scotland's charity Air Ambulance. And what we're going to do is we're going to give them a little bit of a Q&A. So you guys out there get to know exactly what the Scotland's charity Air Ambulance is and how funding gets done and all the kind of intricacies behind it. So, gentlemen, welcome to the Knockhill, I could call it Knockhill podcast, but it's a Knockhill Zoom. Welcome, guys.
Good afternoon.
First of all, Nick, we'll go to you. Can you give us a little bit of a breakdown of what your role is at the Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance?
Yes, certainly, Doug. I'm the Director of Fundraising and Communications for the charity, and really that role sort of wraps up all of our engagement with the community, public relations, marketing, social media work, as well as the all-important fundraising part for the charity.
Now, as strangers doing this over Zoom, because normally we would do this in Knockhill's back room, we'd have a lovely Caber coffee and, a couple of Tunnocks Camel wafers, but, Pete's already got his own mug of tea. I've got my glass of water here. We're very much remote still in these strange times. I suppose, Pete, you are the glamorous one, no? You are the guy who is looked at as being the pilot. I do like how you've come dressed for the occasion as well. So give us a little overview of what you do then.
So I'm one of the two base pilots we've got at Aberdeen. We've also got a similar setup down in Perth. And our job, as you can imagine, is to get the aircraft from the airport, Aberdeen, off to those HEMS missions that we're required to go to around Scotland. So that's my primary job, is to get the aircraft from there safely to where it needs to get to. And then while the paramedics and the doctors are doing their bits and pieces, I get the aircraft ready to receive the patient before I then fly them off to the hospital, and then kind of complete that mission before going back to the airfield and waiting for more jobs.
Yeah, definite key part to everything that goes on. It's a team effort, obviously, at Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance. Nick, the challenging times, I just say would normally be sitting in the back room at Knockhill sipping coffee and, doing this over a lovely biscuit. But, you can see how COVID's affected us. How has COVID affected you guys in the business that you do?
Well, on several fronts, actually, Doug. We've from an operational point of view, flying missions, responding to 999 emergencies across the country, that's really not changed a great deal in the way that we are delivering our services, aside for some of the medical preparations and work that we need to do to keep the crew safe. But from the fundraising side, I've been working here, where we are now, in my dining room since April last year. And I have to tell you, it's a whole new experience for me and for the rest of the charity team. They're not in my dining room; they're in their own houses. But we've been working away now for almost a year on our fundraising and communications activities. When COVID first started, it was pretty obvious that all of our traditional fundraising events, not just for us, but for every charity across Scotland and broadly across the UK, had to cancel all of the public type events because of the lockdown, and that sort of made us look at what we could do and how we could continue to communicate with everybody and provide the opportunity to raise funds for the charity. So we've been doing a lot of work on the social media, on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram, all kind of new stuff for the charity, but it's going really well. As well as virtual events. We've been supported hugely by people either in their back gardens or riding around their local neighbourhood, doing virtual rides and virtual walks and climbs and all sorts of wonderful things, raising money for us. So yeah, it's been really different, but the support from the community for Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance is absolutely amazing, and we're so grateful to everybody, because that's the only way we keep flying, is with donations from the public.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be my next question. Your social media, what pages do you have and how can people find them?
I think probably the best one that we could point people to would be our Facebook page. So if you literally just look up Scotland's Charity Air Ambulance on Facebook, you'll find us there. We've got over 80,000 people following us now, and we post all sorts of information on our Facebook page regularly, from how to support us right through to some of the missions that we fly, the places that we travel to, and one of our all-time favourites is a post called "The View from the Crew," And normally what happens is on a mission, on a flight, one of our paramedics, normally in the front of the helicopter next to the pilot, will take a photograph from some distance up, and Pete will probably know how high up you normally are, and you can see the ground below, and we put the challenge out to people to say, where are we? Can you recognise it? It's really good.
Pete, I like the sound of that. Do you ever manage to get a picture of your own house if you're flying over it, or is the routes, you don't know where you're going to go sometimes, but what are the pictures like then, Pete, that come out from that?
Oh, excellent. I mean, we can fly over so much beautiful scenery as we're doing our job around Scotland. So we're sort of sport for choice for pictures, really, from a scenic point of view. And again, last week we were over Portsoy and Peaky Blinders were filming, and you can see the smoke machine billowing smoke as we're going up to Orkney there and back. So I'm sure we were ruining their film set as a modern helicopter flies over a 1930s scene, but it was amazing to see. And I think that was in one of the recent views from the crew, a very snowy Portsoy with Peaky Blinders filming down below us.
Well, we still have snow at Knockhill, but thankfully where I am just now in Glenrothes, the snow has gone. It's quite good. It's go out for a walk with the dog and you're not walking on that horrible slush stuff that we have or have had. How do you guys get tasked with a mission? Now, I don't know who's best to answer this one. How do you get tasked with a mission, and how many do you fly in a year?
I can probably jump in there, and Pete can fix up anything I get wrong. But we are tasked by the Scottish Ambulance Services 999 desk. So if you ring 999 with an emergency, the person that you speak to will ask you what the nature of the emergency is, where you are, and the condition of the patient or the situation that you're in. And if during that process they decide that an air ambulance is the most appropriate response, we will then get a call into our crew room, either in Aberdeen, as Pete's mentioned, where he and the crew are located normally, or at Perth Airport in Scone. And the aircraft is then deployed with all the coordinates and the information required. Within 3 to 5 minutes, generally, if it's a HEMS, which is a helicopter emergency medical service call, that's the equivalent of blue lights, blues and twos, as they say, on the road, but we're in the air. We don't have blue lights flashing because you can't see them up there. But within 3 to 5 minutes would be our target to get off the deck and on our way to the patient.
So that's a quick response. That's a rapid response almost, Pete. So Pete, you're sitting in the mess room, feet up,
Yep.
drinking tea again, just like we've seen there just now, and the alarm goes, and it's just everybody knows what they've got to do to get the helicopter from the ground into the air in that short window of time.
It's one of the phone rings, and it's attached to one of those old school kind of school bells that goes off, so we all can hear that we've got a job come in. And then Nick said, all huddle around the phone. We get a grid from the 999 desk, and then we'll punch that into our little sat navs that we've got that we take out with us. We'll also put it on our big screen as well, because as with everything, Google Street View is great for seeing where the landing site's going to be, and we can almost pick out just before we go in that 30 seconds a quick look to see where's suitable, if there's only going to be any problems with wires or roads or anything like that might be a hazard to the aircraft, and we can get all that information, and then out to the aircraft we go. And then Aberdeen's pretty good. Although it's a busy international airport, we get priority getting out of there so we can go on those jobs. So it's a fairly smooth transition to get away from one of the busiest airfields in Scotland.
So you're based at an airfield, exactly. But what type of helicopters do you guys have then? They've obviously got to be they've got to be big because you've got a lot of equipment, but they've also got to be pretty fast, I would imagine, because Aberdeen, it's quite far away up north, and to come down to, say, Edinburgh, Fife, or even further down into the borders, you've got to have something that's can fairly shift.
Yeah, so I can take that next if you want. Or
yeah, that's probably a good one.
We've got Eurocopter 135 helicopters, both at Aberdeen and at Perth, and they fly around about 120 knots, cruise speeds about 140 odd miles an hour. So that means we can get to large portions of Scotland pretty quickly. If we're going up, we tend to do a lot of our work out into towards Aberdeenshire, Moray, up towards Caithness, and obviously Perth will probably favour the central belt just because of their positioning, really. And those helicopters are ideal, really, for what they are. They're kind of a good size, so we can get both the medics and the patient on board. We can carry a reasonable amount of fuel to get us where we need to go to, but they're not too big that they're going to have to have a huge landing site if we're landing in the middle of a clearing in woods on a hill or on a roadside.
Yeah, I didn't think of that actually. I was thinking you'd have a really, really big helicopter, but you don't want something that's too big that's going to compromise the landing. I could understand that. So you've said how fast, but how high is another thing. How high can you guys travel?
Generally, most times we're below 5,000 feet. Occasionally, if we need to go over the hills, we'll go higher than that. But I mean, we could go up to 15,000 feet. I think it's the limit for the aircraft. But we'd never get there because most of our jobs don't require us to go that high. So generally, we operate below 5,000 feet for most of the time that we're doing our trips, unless we're going probably far west over Ben Nevis, where we'd like to be a bit higher if we're doing that.
I think you'd like to be higher than that. Yeah, but it's obviously you also get a great feeling of speed when you're that low to the lower to the ground than being away up high. It's not something I saw you kind of shaking your head there, Nick. Being that high is not something in a helicopter. It's not something I fancy, to tell you the truth.
I've been really lucky, actually. I've had the opportunity to fly in a helicopter. We don't fly in our own helicopters as a rule, because they're reserved for crew and patients. But recreationally, I've been fortunate enough to fly in a helicopter, and it's a great sensation. I mean, if I had my time again, I might have been a helicopter pilot, because you're just free up there and you can see all around you, and it's just a magnificent feeling. So, and I'm sure that it must give great assurance and security to the communities that are up through the Highlands and the islands and the more remote areas of Scotland, knowing that there is a rapid response service to provide emergency medical care if it's needed, because otherwise it could be it can be hours and hours and hours before you could get the medical care that you need. So yeah, it's a pretty good service.
Well, we at Knockhill have a very keen fondness for Scotland's charity Air Ambulance, because we are a member of staff who unfortunately required the services of you guys and ultimately saved his life. So yeah, we have a very, very soft, nice place in our hearts for you guys. So Pete, okay, for you, we'll look at background of pilots. You see the movies, you see them coming through Vietnam and things like that, the famous movies. But what background do you actually have? Are you a commercial pilot, or have you done any military training?
So most of my career was spent in the Royal Air Force, where I was flying the Chinook helicopter, which is a touch bigger than one I fly. It's about 100 feet from tip to tip, so on the other end of the helicopter size scale. And I did that for 12 years or so. And within that, kind of the hot and dusty places of the world was where I spent most of my time. So I did 6 tours of duty in Afghanistan during that time period. So it was kind of the main thing going on. And then when I left the military, I worked for Boeing for 3 years. Basically, we were remanufacturing the Royal Air Force's Chinooks, and I was responsible for doing the flight test on those prior to them being given back to the Air Force. So did that for 3 years, and then after that, I joined Babcock, and I've now been flying with them for 3 years. Initially in Inverness on the air ambulance there, before moving over in June last year when they set up the Aberdeen base.
And what's it like going from a Chinook, which is like an HGV, to what you fly with Scotland's charity Air Ambulance, which must be more like a normal saloon car? Do the helicopters handle differently? Because we're a racetrack, we're always looking at handling, speed, adaptability. What are the helicopters like?
So yeah, you're right. The Chinook on the other end of the scale was really big. It could either have an awful lot of weight in it, but when it was quite light and empty, you could throw it around quite a lot. And back in the military, you were kind of allowed to do that like a bit more. However, the 135 is a lovely aircraft to fly. It's really smooth. It's ideal for what the medics need to get their job done down the back. And as I say, because it's such a smooth and easy to fly helicopter, it just means we can get the aircraft into those really tight spots on the road in a clearing where we need to get the help as close as we can to the injured person. So really, really good aircraft. Definitely good for its role. Chinook had a different role. The 135 is excellent as an air ambulance.
Yeah, great stuff. The equipment that's in these helicopters, I don't know who's best to answer this one, because I would imagine you both have a good handle on it, but what type of equipment's in that helicopter? And importantly, where does it come from, and who pays for the equipment that you guys have?
So the equipment in the back of the 135 is basically the same as what you'd find in a normal road ambulance. Plus we have a few other extra devices and medical intervention tools that the paramedics may need in the back as well, because of the remoteness sometimes of where we're heading. These guys and girls that we've got are paramedics, extremely skilled individuals, are the life-saving care on the ground. So it's important that we've got as much of that sort of equipment on board as is needed. It'd be fair to say we don't have the same volume of equipment that they have in a road ambulance, just because of the physical size, but we counter that by the speed at which we can get a patient off the ground, stabilised, and to the landing pad at one of the major hospitals around the 4 key trauma centres in Scotland. So it's a well-equipped, well-stocked rear of the aircraft that's restocked on return after every mission, so that it's ready to deploy at a call, literally. So there's nothing to do apart from to get the information required on the location and the patient condition, and then away we go. As far as paying for it all, that comes down to the charity. So the people of Scotland, through their generosity, fund everything from the fuel that we need to our pilots and paramedics and the equipment that we carry on board. And that for us adds up to about or just over £4.5 million a year is what it costs to operate these 2 helicopters. But the proof in all of that is the impact that SCAA has had through its nearly 8 years now of operating in Scotland, and the thousands of missions that we've flown and the hundreds of lives that we've saved.
Yeah, like you can't put a price on saving lives and things like that. It's the money, and it has to come from someplace. And like you say, the generosity of the people of Scotland keep you guys definitely going. At the top of it, Pete, you said you land, and you kind of get the aircraft ready again to take off. Now, what does that involve? Obviously, you've landed. The paramedics will then go and do their thing. So you're left at the aircraft. And first of all, how do you pick a landing site? You said you're looking for wires and that, but how much room do you need? And what is involved in getting the aircraft then ready to get back out there as quickly as you can?
Yeah, so when it comes to kind of picking a landing site, both myself and my paramedic who sat next to me, he's got additional training which we're required by law essentially to have, so he can help me identify any hazards. So again, we're looking for a size of about 25 by 25 metre square landing site as our smallest we can go into, which is basically twice the size of the helicopter, just to give us a bit of a leeway for when we're landing. So we're looking for one of those kind of sizes of landing pit, so probably about twice the size of a tennis court, really. And then once we found one of those, we're looking for any kind of wires, any telegraph pole, any kind of telegraph wires that might be going through, or anything that might get blown away by the helicopter, anything that's kind of lying loose on the landing site. And obviously we want it to have good access so we can get the patient from where they are to the helicopter, and also needs to be able to get the paramedic to the patient. Sometimes annoyingly you've got ditches which are so deep they can't get across. So again, you're just trying to assess this all from a few hundred feet up in the air, and then once you and the paramedic and the rest of the crew are happy, then we'll kind of make the landing into there. Once we've kind of shut down and the paramedics have gone off to the medical care for the patient, I'll just get the stretcher out, make sure all the kind of inside of the cabin is all secure. So once we get the patient to the helicopter, we can get them loaded and get them off to hospital as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it must be very difficult when you're, especially if you're remotely up the Highlands and you're looking for some place to land, because you don't know what you're going to be landing onto as well. It could be soft. You don't want the thing to suddenly tip over. So I take it it's got wheels. It's not got the skis. Am I right to say it's got the wheels?
No, we've got skids on this, and we've also got so we've got 2 skids. So they're really ideal for landing in kind of marshy terrain. Wheels, because there tends to be less surface area, they could get bogged down a good bit more. So skids kind of spread the weight of the helicopter. So obviously there are a lot of moors in Scotland, lots of boggy ground. So again, they're actually ideal for landing in those kind of off-road, rugged areas, which, as you know, there's a lot of in Scotland.
And what's it like with team spirit? Because, ultimately there's a huge stress on what you guys do. It's a difficult job. How do you guys kind of unwind, and what do you do after a mission?
So after each mission, we'll have a talk through what we've done, kind of have a debrief both on the flying side, and the medics will talk through their medical kind of procedures, any lessons learned, anything they could do better. Because always, always want to improve the service and how you're doing things. So once we've done that, I can get all the admin, the aircraft restocked, as Nick said, and getting it ready to go. Then it's get the kettle on and have a brew and maybe watch some TV while you're waiting for the next job.
Yeah, because unfortunately, you do know that phone is going to ring. That's one of the things, and you've always got to be ready. So, Nick, once again, where can people find the funding pages to help Scotland's charity Air Ambulance in getting that very much needed finance?
Yeah, thanks, Doug. If you go to, I'm going to say this www, you don't need to say that, I know, but scaa.org.uk, and you'll find out all about us, and you'll find the donation pages on there, but you'll find mission stories and videos and all sorts of information about our crews and our patients, and the things that we do. One of our bylines or taglines is saving time, saving lives, and nothing could be more true than operating within that golden hour that consultants talk about. That's where the air ambulance really shines. If you're on the road, a victim of a road traffic accident or something, we'll get there in plenty of time, provide the care that's required and get you to that hospital, saving time and saving lives. So, but go and check it out. It's scaa.org.uk.
Yeah, good stuff. Make sure you do that, guys, and every little helps. It does that. Listen, thank you very much, guys. It's been a pleasure having you here on Knockhill, and hopefully we can catch up again soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Bye now.